Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hit Your Numbers. This week, James is joined by two of our favourite guests we've had on the podcast to talk about all things customer expansion and retention. It's full of some top tips and great advice from two industry leaders and founders in their field. Right, on with the podcast.
We have a major problem with how we ramp new account executives. Your new AEs are being declared ramped at 3 or 6 months, but can they actually run discovery or execute the sales process without you jumping in to save them? Most can't, and that's the problem. Most sales teams ramp reps based on time in seat and not capability-based onboarding where you certify your new sellers. So I built a playbook full of frameworks, implementation roadmaps, and infrastructure guides that cut ramp time in half and have proven to improve win rates by 75%, and it's completely free. So stop this episode right now and go and download the Sales Readiness Playbook at therevenueenabler.com or use the link in the description below. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Hit Your Numbers podcast. Today I'm joined by Simon. Hey Simon, how's it going?
It's going very well, thanks James. Keeping well?
Always find that a bit weird because we've just spent 10 minutes behind the scenes talking, and then I'm like, "Hey, how are you doing?" As if we just rocked up.
That bit was probably the best bit. We didn't even bloody record it.
I know, right? Yeah. Now this is going to be an absolute flop, so maybe we'll figure out how we do that.
It's all good. It's all good.
Look, but I think we're going to talk about a really interesting topic today that probably a lot of people aren't really thinking about, but they're probably leaving a lot of money on the table. Before we do that, maybe just for the listeners and the audience, just give us a really quick background. Who are you? What are you up to? And then we can jump into the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you. So it's Simon Watson. I'm the founder and principal consultant of R&B Consulting. We work with a range of different businesses. They're typically founder-led, typically sort of between 2 and 50 people, depending on what the organization provides. Real mix of businesses, software, enterprise level deals, all the way through to sort of 3-4K deals that might be more frequent. But across a whole broad range of industries, from very traditional to very modern. Been in the B2B sales game for probably 20 years, but certainly the last sort of 15 or 16 in high growth businesses. Software predominantly, as well as some service-based businesses, agencies, and been fortunate enough to be part of some successful exits along the way, it's shown me some of the behind the scenes, if you like, in terms of what needs to happen in order for successful liquidity events to take place. And and so a lot of the work that I do today is predicated on the knowledge and experience that I've built up over recent years of what it takes to build businesses into profitable, meaningful entities, working very either being the founder or working with the founder to help the growth of those businesses.
So let's make an assumption that the sales organization understands that if there's churn, and part of that could come from a really shit onboarding handover, they got to replace the revenue. So let's say they do a really good job being thorough, and they dump all of their 10 transcripts from all of the meetings into AI, and it summarizes everything into a nice package, and they do a really good medic handover, whatever it might be, whatever you're using. And the CSM now has got that. They've done the onboarding. The customer's now in there starting to use the tool. But that's only one of 4 solutions that they can be using from that organization. What would you recommend that the rep now does to start thinking about expanding this account? Are there a sequence of steps they need to follow before they can even earn the right to have that conversation? And then how do they approach it?
But just to frame the question, is that rep responsible for expansion, or is it now the account manager or client service? How would you frame that?
Yeah, so the AEs now, they've done a little bit of ride along. They've done a really good handover. The customer is now using the solution. So the AE's now gone back to hunting down new logos, and we now have a commercial account manager or customer success manager that now needs to expand that account from 1 product into 4 over the next 2 years, and drive up the revenue from that account. So it's down to the post sales rep now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's two things really. It's R&R, right? It's relationship and ROI. Like if either of those are fucked, you ain't going to grow anything. So the relational side is critical, because if the ROI side starts to fall down, at least you've got a way to mitigate that or to smooth it. So the relationship is number one. And so that person needs to maintain and grow that relationship with said sponsor or sponsors, ideally more than one. I mean, it's critical actually that it's more than one. If that person leaves or goes, run over by a bus, all that good stuff. But it's maintaining that. And I think there's certain ways to do that. And I think now, we touched on AI, and we, the flood of AI nonsense that's out there. The value now, the high ticket value is human, and it's in person, and it's web, face to face. But even more so now, like in person is critical, but it's never been more difficult because of where people are located. People don't come into the offices. But I think finding angles and finding reasons to bring individuals together, regardless of where they are in the country or the world for that matter, is critical. I think without, and again, it depends on your organization, but without stepping into bribery territory, there are certain things you can do to get people in. If you've got a massive client that's worth 6 or 7 figures to you, and they're based in Paris, and it's difficult to obviously meet them, creating some reason for them to come to Paris, paying for their Eurostar, paying for their hotel, and giving them an experience in London. I'm talking about London in this case, but giving them an experience and a reason to come to visit, to broker that relationship. And I guarantee you, even if even just by proposing something like that, whether they can or can't do it, whether they're that way inclined or not, they'll see the value and they'll appreciate that. And, and that can pay dividends, literally pay dividends. So I think creating reasons to bring people together in person to build and maintain the relationship side. And then it's keeping a close tab on the ROI side. Again, marketing technology or tech businesses generally, there's normally a really clear ROI story. It's not always the case, and you do have to sort of get creative, but very often it's a pound in the top of the hopper equals 10 out the bottom, right? So making sure that story tallies up, and keeping tabs on it. You don't need to be, again, in all of the client meetings, but certainly keeping tabs and having regular catch-ups with your AMs to see what is the health of the account. Are they seeing value? We're 6 months in. How's the onboarding gone? What can we start to draw? Are we doing QBRs? Is the client big enough to have a QBR? And just because we see everything looks rosy, have you asked them the question? Like, how do you think it's going, Mr. and Mrs. Customer?
Yeah.
And balancing and managing that aspect. And I think if you get those two correct, then that's the kind of secret sauce, if you like.
I don't know who said this, but little things like this always stick with you. But the customer doesn't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. And that comes down to asking really good questions and not implicating pain questions. But Simon, is that a boxing glove up there in the top right corner? I can see you're a boxing fan. It's not Mike Tyson glove, is it? By any chance, knowing it's probably not. But then I've got
one on order though.
I've got one. Yeah, I got one on order. If you don't deliver value, you'll be receiving. But exactly. Little things like that, right? And then I see VP sales comes to us, says, James, got 50 sellers, we want to deploy Medic. I'm like, cool. We start getting into it. We listen to the calls. I'm like, these people aren't even listening. 1 minute we're talking about a boxing glove, and the next minute we're talking about armchairs. What? how are we bouncing around that much? Like being a good listener again is just something, I don't know about you, but my first sales job didn't sit me down and go, right, here's the listening skills module. This is how you show your listening. This is why we're doing it. This is how we use it to go deeper into the problem or whatever we're talking about. So there's I think that's a critical skill. I think account hypothesis post sales and be like, right, but you've bought this, but I've done some stakeholder mapping and I think here's a hypothesis that I want to play out with you. This team, and this team can get value. Maybe now's not the right time because we're, a week or 2 weeks into the relationship, but I want to be able to build into this.
Yeah.
How accurate is that? And is there any content that I can share with those folks? And then your last part's absolutely spot on. Last year, I never thought I'd write a book, but I wrote a book called The Champion Playbook. And a big part of it is about champion enablement so that they can go into those conversations and have that chat. And when you was talking, I wrote down financial storytelling. There shouldn't be a case when your customer or your champion comes to you and says, I've just come out of the exec meeting and there's a massive question mark next to the value associated to your name, because we should be enabling that person after a QBR or a budgeting cycle to go into that conversation and say, hey, here is the outcome that we set out to achieve 2 years ago when we signed up for this thing. This is how we've delivered against it. Here's the feedback that we've got from doing it. This is what we're trying to close the gap on. We're now requesting an extension of 2 years so that we can continue to build on this value and ultimately close this last part that we downgraded in the order of importance because we wanted to achieve these outcomes. Like if we actually just gave them a 1 or 2 page Google Doc, no fancy digital sales room, just a simple Google Doc to start off with, and say, get used to enabling your internal advocate to go to bat and defend and justify the renewal or the expansion. You should get less people come back saying, big question mark on renewal. What's that saying? Bad news takes a long time to travel uphill. You should be on the front foot with a lot of this stuff so you're not getting punched in the face in the last 2 days of the quarter going, oh shit, it's not going to renew now. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Hit Your Numbers podcast. And today I'm joined by Mark. Hey Mark, how's it going?
Very well, thank you, James. Good to be here.
Yeah, likewise. I'm glad we've finally done this. So today we're going to be talking about building a go-to-market team in this lovely, exciting age of AI. Just before we jump into the conversation, just for the 10 people that might be listening to this, let's bring them up to speed on who's Mark, a bit about your background, and then let us know what you're building now because it's pretty cool, really exciting. So maybe just share that and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Well, firstly, James, I think you do yourself a disservice. I'm sure there's going to be many more than 10 people listening to your podcast.
With you on the show, maybe.
Who knows? Who knows? Fingers crossed. But anyway, firstly, thank you so much for having me on here. Really excited to obviously talk to you about the world of sales and everything AI. In fact, I almost feel uncomfortable saying AI now because it's such a buzzword, isn't it? Yeah. And I've literally just this morning been at Meta HQ up in North London, and the whole session was about AI, but they refused to kind of say it because people have heard far too much about it. But anyway, I'm rambling already. I'm Mark. I've been in the world of sales for coming up to about 20 years now across various different guises, but predominantly in the world of HR technology. So I've worked across internal communications, employee engagement, employee experience, benefits, well-being, everything that kind of touches the employee in one way, shape or form. I've worked in technology that kind of influences that. More recently, I've been working for a company called Nudge, who are the kind of global leader in all things financial education, financial well-being. I had an incredible 5 years there, leading their go-to-market function, working with some of the brightest minds in employee well-being. And I made the really difficult decision last year to move on. A great friend of mine came knocking on my door about midway last year saying, I've had this amazing idea. Put this sort of early prototype in front of me and an early vision for this product. And it was pretty much impossible to say no. So that was about 6 months ago. And here we are today, about 6 weeks into having launched HubWorx. So we are, what are we? What's my elevator pitch? We are a kind of next generation, next era
employee hub that brings all of your communications, information, documents into one beautiful space. And then we have our AI assistant, Dot, who essentially helps you find what matters when it matters. And the inspiration behind Dot is all about joining the dots across your organization. And I could talk to you for hours about what the kind of problems and challenges are across the world of employee communication, but we've got more pressing matters today to talk about all things AI. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Be excited by all of this amazing technology, absolutely, but don't forget the basics. So one of the things that I do, I've just joined this new company, right? It's really exciting, but all of a sudden my go-to-market narrative, the conversations that I'm having, the buyer's slightly different, the needs are slightly different. I need to learn my new narrative. I need to be absolutely crystal clear on my messaging. And AI is helping me shape that, but I'm the one that's dancing around the living room in my bedroom, reciting it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And the joy of knowing something inside out is that when you actually come to deliver the message, it's so deeply ingrained in your psyche that you can properly connect with your buyer, and you can add emotion, and you can add tone, and you can add all the things that get that kind of brain going. God, I really like this person. They really care. That, they're rather than sitting there kind of thinking about, oh God, what's the next thing I'm going to say, or how am I going to structure that next sentence, or how on earth am I going to deal with that objection? Because you haven't practiced it.
Yeah.
Basics,
it's so
basics,
true.
Basics.
If more people did that, Mark, that honestly we wouldn't have the problem that we have in go-to-market in the time it comes to revenue and expansion. My view, I think, on the people and the structure of a go-to-market team over the next couple of years, and I don't think anything will become mainstream for a long old time, but because people still aren't bloody recording their calls. Like, we onboard a new customer and they're not even recording discovery calls, and Gong and things like that have been out for a decade, right? So I think a lot of this stuff does take a while for it to play out, but I see go-to-market, like if we think about like revenue, right? So like new logo, expansion and retention. I think it was like a production line, like a BMW factory. At one end, you've got some car parts, the other end, you've got an M5, and it's different stations, right? And I think the stations should be, just based on everything that I'm seeing at the moment, is you have like basically three VPs and then a wrapper of AI around it. You've got a VP of pipeline, and that has marketing and SDR sat in it, and they are literally responsible for building brand and high quality pipeline into the account executive team. You've then got this middle team, which is VP of deal execution. These are AEs that are great at driving new logo, expansion, and retention, because the third team is a VP of value realization. If you think a lot of tools that you buy, they kick over a thank you email with a Loom video of how to onboard yourself, and you are not set up for success. Most people do not extract value from that investment, which is why there's terrifying churn. And a lot of the customers that we work with now, more of them are asking us to do work with their post-sales team to fix their terrible churn problem. And then when we lift up the hood, there is no value realization. They want their CSMs selling more and doing renewal, but nobody is working with the customer, the stakeholders, and the end users to get maximum value. And I think if you've got a good team doing that, your AE team, the deal execution team, can be doing new logo, expansion, and then renewal should just be a natural thing that happens every 3-5 years, depending on the term. And it'll be a long time till it gets that way.
You made it sound so easy.
Well, look, we've got a website. It's called therevenenabler.com. Hit the contact button and we'll help you. I'm joking. But like, that's a hard thing, right? And I do think it'll be a long old time until that really plays out. But look, we've got an org now where you've got SDRs and A's and CSMs. Like when me and you started, that didn't exist. You had a BDM or an account manager, and they did everything themselves.
Good old-fashioned hard graft, right?
Graft. And giving a shit, which you said earlier, is basically being professional and being proud of the work that you do. All right, thanks for listening to this episode. I've got something else I want to give you before we wrap up here. So we've built the leading skill optimization platform with 400 plus sales lessons, 12 courses from prospecting all the way through to late stage deal negotiation and more, one-to-one sales coaching and AI sales assistance. And I want to give you 7 days free access to the platform. The reason I want to do this is because nobody gets a degree in B2B sales. And after training and coaching hundreds of sales reps and teams in the last 2 years, most haven't mastered critical selling skills, and it's preventing them from being promoted, earning great money, and building a great career in B2B sales. So go to the revenueenabler.com, grab a free trial, and join hundreds of salespeople that are closing their skill gaps and mastering sales. There's a link in the video description. I'm looking forward to getting you set up. Give me a shout with any questions.